first on the list of, I guess, reviews. Master Detective Archives Rain Code. I have to ask, I feel really silly asking this. Is this the guy that did all the Somnium files? I mean, it's Master Detective Archives, right?
Yeah,
Is it the same guy?
this is from the Danganronpa team,
Danganronpa team, that's it.
which
Danganronpa
I
team.
like. There's definitely a connection between the like Zero Escape and Aeon Somnium files and the Danganronpa team. I'm not exactly sure what the connection is, but I think they work together in one way or another.
Okay.
So yes, similar vein for
Okay,
sure.
got it. I don't...
Um,
Anyway, 78 on the review. Great.
yep,
78's good. Not amazing,
solid.
obviously, but it's good.
Yeah, I mean it's a new IP. This game just came out yesterday, actually, and it's a Switch exclusive at least for now. We'll see if there's going to be a PC port.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, it's from the new studio that the creator of Danganronpa and other people made, following Danganronpa V3, which I think came out like, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. It's been quite a while,
Uh-huh.
since the last Danganronpa game. And yeah, this is their new game. It's not, kids in a school murdering each other and playing a death game. It's not that, but it has a similar like gameplay where there's a crime, there's a mystery, there's an investigation, and then there's a in this game, instead of a class trial like in Danganronpa, what they call the mystery labyrinth, where you go through this sort of like alternate reality
Yep.
persona-esque like palace thing where they ask you questions and ask you to solve the mystery, basically that way, similar to the class trial from Danganronpa. um Yeah, I mean, if you're into these kinds of like mystery games or you played Danganronpa and like that, you'll probably like this as well. It's a little bit different. It's very text heavy as Danganronpa is, but this one actually has like full 3D environments and 3D characters, where you can actually walk around, as opposed to Danganronpa, which is pretty much just visual novel.
Mm.
And there is some walking around in Danganronpa, but it's all like 2D images and stuff. This actually has 3D environments, though it's Switch, so it's a little grainy, and the frame rate isn't amazing either.
It's a Switch.
But it's Switch, and it's not like this is a action heavy game where you need 60 FPS or anything like that. So it's reasonable. It's fine. And yeah, I mean, as I said, the game came out yesterday. I played basically the intro chapter. They call it Chapter 0, in this one, and yeah, it's good. These are solid reviews. I don't think they're as good. I think all the Danganronpa games have Metacritics in the 80s actually, so I don't think this one's reviewing quite as well as that one. But again, it's a similar concept. I saw some reviews saying most of the, I mean, it's gonna vary from person to person, but most of the differences I've seen on the reviews are like the people that score it high really liked like the characters, and especially the main sidekick to the main character. Her name is Shinigami. She's a death god, and she's that little ghost thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also, as you see that the lady that's like above him in that picture,
Mm-hmm.
so that's Shinigami, and she is well, she's kind of a lot, and some people find her annoying, and some people found her to be a cool and interesting sidekick. So that was kind of the main disparity that I saw, and also obviously the how bad you think the performance is and how it affects the game, and obviously how interesting you think the story and the mysteries are. That's pretty subjective. So, but yeah, again, I think if you like Danganronpa or this type of like mystery game, you'll probably like this. This is made from basically the same team and in a similar vein, a little bit different format, but the gameplay, at least in the mystery labyrinths, ends up being really similar to what the class trials were. There's a bunch of mini games and stuff that have you ask question. They ask you questions and have you make logical deductions and try and solve the mystery through these mini games, basically. So, I know you haven't played Danganronpa. You did play AI Somnium Files, so
Yep.
um,
Yeah, usually when you have a sidekick character, I don't think I've really seen a lot of middle ground. It's usually they're really annoying or they're, they become funny or like interesting. I've never seen
yeah,
anybody lukewarm on a sidekick character in some of these games. They're always
yeah,
like, that's super annoying, or oh, that's funny. I don't have many
yeah,
people that are like, oh, this is all right. I
yeah.
mean, it's a
Also,
sidekick character.
our main character has amnesia because
Yeah, I'm out. This is so.
he made a contract with the death god, which caused him to have amnesia. So
Anytime I hear that, I'm done. I don't care about that story anymore. If I hear amnesia in your story, I'm bored. I just become bored already. It's so lazy. It's so lazy. It's like, well, what do we do? How does the character feel? Well, just give him amnesia. It's like, oh, it's like kill me. Just kill me. It's so boring now. It's so overused. It's so boring. It's there's some other cliches that are way too overused, and amnesia is one of them. It's too overused.
I know of all the cliches, amnesia is probably the one you hate more than anything.
I think it's the one that I feel like is used the most, and I hate it the most. I really hate it. It's so lazy. It's done way too much. It feels like it's just like the placeholder. Like we don't know how to introduce the story or the lore. We're gonna just make our main character have amnesia, so he has to relearn everything. Which I'm like, okay. When it's used sparingly in certain situations, it's fine. I'm kind of done like kicking the story off with I have amnesia. Like, okay. Anyway, yeah, it just bores me. I'm like, okay, let's come up with something different. Let's do something different. All right. Sorry, I haven't played any of these games. I'm like just out of
Yeah, I
it.
know I mean, this is just one. I thought about not posting this one because it's a pretty niche game. But again, just to let people know that this is if you're a fan of those like Danganronpa games, basically, or mystery games, then this might be up your alley. Worth checking out
Got it.
for sure.
All right. Uh, The Legend of Heroes trails into
Reverie.
Reverie. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't have anything to say. Go ahead.
I've talked about Trails not at length, but a few times on the podcast, and I'll keep it brief. This game comes out next week, next Friday, I think. This is the now most well, it's not the most recent title. There's two games that are after this that are only released in Japan so far. I assume
Sure.
they'll get here eventually, but they're working on localizing the games. But
Sure.
this is going to be the furthest along game in the series after Cold Steel 4. Um, generally, the reviews for this are quite positive. People seem to really like this one,
Yeah, 80.
actually. Um,
Is that not the norm of like people like it? I'm sorry, like 81, like
well,
81's pretty like it's good. I'm just like, is that not the norm for this
yeah,
series?
no, I mean, it's not. These games don't get reviewed that like IGN reviewed this, and I was surprised because I don't think I've seen IGN review a single one of these games before.
I don't know. Somebody at IGN, it was on their list, and the editor was like, "Yeah, whatever, go for it, have fun."
It's like it's summer. There's not a lot out right now.
Yeah,
I guess
sure.
we can review it this time.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
like again, somebody on IGN's a fan, and they're like, "Yeah, go ahead, review it."
um, yeah, but the one thing to say about this game, I guess I've said this about a couple of the other games as well, is that like this one for sure, this is a like it's a bridge game between the most recent arc, which is Cold Steel, and the next arc, which is um it's the next region, Calvard arc. But this is like a bridge game that is wrapping up both Cold Steel and Crossbell, which are Zero and Azure, which I talked about before. Um, this is like I mean, Cold Steel 4 was kind of an everyone is here game, but this is an even more of like everyone is here game. Like you get to play as Reen, who's Reen and his team, who are the main character of Cold Steel, and then Lloyd and the SSS, his team, which is the main character from Crossbell. And then there's a new group. So there's like 3 teams that you play in this game, 3 routes basically. And yeah, so this is definitely a game in the series that you would not want to jump into the series in this game. Like you want to have played like basically all of the previous games before you play this one, which is quite an ask. As we've talked about before, they are long and involved games, and there are, what is this? This is the 10th. No, this is the 9th. 9th, yeah. Sky 1, 2, 3. Azure 0, Azure, that's 5, and then Cold Steel 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 9. So this is the 10th. Yeah, this is the 10th title. And yeah, I think you'll want to have played all of them before this to play this one. But the reviews generally, if you read the blurbs and stuff, are saying like, yeah, this one's a really good like love letter to the fans. Basically, it's done really well for what it is, basically. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Cool. That's my take. Cool.
Yeah, if you're a fan of this series, you should like this one. Obviously, if you're not playing this series, I don't recommend it because, yeah.
You go ahead and sink 1,000 hours into the other ones first.
Yeah, go ahead and get like 500 hours before you jump into this one.
Yep. Okay, I know that my little like tab says hype chat, but for whatever reason it bugged. It's actually the Final Fantasy 16 review page. I don't understand
nice.
the bug.
Okay.
There.
Cool hype chat.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so this is FF16 reviews. This game came out. It did not come out this week. It came out like what was it, a week and a half ago?
A week and a half ago.
Week and a half ago. Yeah. So this is just because we took a week off. But you've played this video game. It's got almost a 90, which is amazing. By the way, this year's games have reviewed extremely well.
Yeah, we've got
this year's games we've
got like 4 or 5 that are meting 90 or very close to
90. This has been like a really good year of games. I didn't even look at Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 reviewed a 92. That's amazing. This has just like been a crazy year for games, and we're in July now. So I think this year's just been an amazing year in general, for various groups for games. I just wanted to make that comment. But FF16, I'm gonna point to you again because I haven't played this and I have no intention of playing it because I don't want to buy a PS5 to play this.
You don't have a PS5.
Yeah, I'm not gonna buy a PS5 to play this.
Do you want me to do like my FF16 thoughts now with this, or do you want to save those for later?
I mean, we can save them for later. You got a short version of it, and then you can just talk about it more later.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. Otherwise, we can just skip this and talk about it later. I'm also fine with that. We can just talk about it later.
No, yeah. I guess I'll just do a short version.
Okay.
FF16 is I like it so far. It's fun. The game doesn't keep track of your playtime, but I'm probably like 10 to 15 hours, I would say.
FF16 games are not super long games, so 10 to 15 hours is actually like a pretty decent chunk.
It's maybe like a third.
Yeah, it's like a third. These games are not 60+ hour epics. They're
generally not.
Yeah.
I've heard 40. I've heard around 40 for
the
story.
That makes sense to me.
That makes sense. I am doing like all the side quests though, so maybe that's gonna add some time. I'm not sure.
I'm sure it will.
And I'm also spending time. I mentioned before they have that like they call it active time lore, the thing where you can like bring up the lore in the middle of cutscenes. I do that quite a lot, to be honest. So that is gonna extend.
There it is. Yeah, there's the 60 hours.
So we'll see. I'm a good, I've definitely made progress. I don't feel like I'm like early in the game. I'll say that. Like stuff has freaking happened in the game so far. Yeah, it's cool. The combat is fun. It's fun and flashy. Takes a little bit to get the hang of, but it's not too complicated. It's cool. It does take a while until you get access to the different icons. Like it takes a while to get the second one, and then it takes
Oh,
a
okay. Yep.
lot longer than I was expecting to get the third one. But yeah, I have 3 icons right now. Yeah, the story is interesting. There's a little bit of that like Game of Thrones-esque political intrigue, but then there's a little bit of like crystal magic and other stuff going on in the background too. There's some things that I can complain about with the story, but generally I like it. I like the characters. They do a good job building up the characters, and even the minor side characters and stuff. I think they do a good job of like making you care about them. So I like it so far. I'm not sure it's gonna be a 9 out of 10, but we'll see as the combat expands further and I get access to more of the icons, and we'll see where the story goes. I'm interested so far. I like it. I like it so far. We'll see how I feel at the end, if I actually feel like it deserves that 90. I think I'm not. I don't know why, but I don't feel wowed by it yet. So right now I'd probably hang more on like 80, but we'll see.
I mean, let's give it some time. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe there's like a crescendo at the end. You never know.
I've heard good things about some of the later, like the icon like boss battles when you're doing like, the big boss battles at the end of like a chapter. They don't break them down into chapters, but we'll call it the end of like a chapter or like a main segment of the game. They're really epic. They're quite the spectacle. They're really cool.
Yep.
So, and I've heard some good things about, just people saying stuff on Twitter about like, oh, some of the later ones are pretty incredible. So we'll see.
Yep.
It's cool. I like it so far. People seem to have liked it. The reviews mostly say the game's really good. Most people say they like the story. Some people said they didn't like the story. A few of the complaints I've heard about it are that the RPG mechanics are pretty light, which I can't agree with. They're pretty weak, to be honest. There's like a basic like skill tree thing. There's equipment which you can upgrade a little bit, and you level up, but leveling up, like, yeah, it just like increases your stats. There's not really anything you get from leveling up other than it just like increases your basic stats.
Wasn't FF7R was it lighter on RPG mechanics than FF7R? FF7R, from my recollection, wasn't super heavy. I didn't recall it being that heavy either.
I would say this has one. I guess like there's customization on like what icons you want to use and stuff, but I would say this like FF7R at least has the materia system.
Correct.
This doesn't. So like this basically has a skill tree, it has like equipment, and it has how you want to set up your combat, your icons and the abilities you're using on your bar. But it doesn't have the materia system, so I would say it has like even one less element than FF7R does.
Well, we should talk about that later. That's very It's been really surprising to me. I feel like
they really want to. They really want to mainstream.
They do. That's what I was gonna
say.
I was gonna say like 15. I don't know how heavy 15 was, but like it seems like the last couple that at least I've heard about don't feel like they've tried to go take you down in depth, and like you start actually getting the spreadsheet out. They seem to, which I don't know. Obviously, people are reviewing it. They seem to like it, so I guess it doesn't make a huge difference. But
yeah,
at what point does Final Fantasy just become an action game?
This is pretty close.
Just an action game.
I mean, I've definitely seen opinion articles saying that like, yeah, this isn't really an RPG anymore, and exactly. I would disagree. There are like the RPG like skeleton is still there. There's still like a skill tree. There's equipment. There's a crafting system, but it's not really. It's just like you just upgrade weapons to like +2, and that's it. there's basic RPG elements in this game, so I can't say that it's not an RPG, but if you're looking for deep RPG mechanics, this ain't it. Like this ain't it at
This
all.
this feels
They're very
very
basic. They're very
feels
basic RPG mechanics.
feels very Western to me to do
Yeah.
that. That is a
Um
very Western approach, which is just light RPG elements, and you call it an RPG. Um,
yeah.
which is interesting to me. It does mean they're trying to mainstream, which I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure their sales are going to be great. I'd love to see their sales at the end of the day, at like maybe six
Well,
months
they
from now.
yeah, I guess they
I
they
want,
had this was part of it, but 3 million in like 6 days for
yeah,
this game, which
great. I want to see
people
6 months.
yeah, I know. People are saying like, "Oh, this isn't selling as well as like 7R or 15," which like is true, but like 15 was multi-platform and 7R was on. I don't think it was multi-platform. It eventually came to PC, but it was also on PS4, which had a much higher install
It has
base
a
at
bigger
that
install
point.
base.
As a PS5 exclusive, I think 3 million in 6 days is pretty damn good to be
FF7R
honest.
also leveraged FF7.
Yeah,
FF7 for whatever reason it needs to be, seems to be like
it's the golden
it's
goat.
the golden it's the
Of
golden
fun.
one.
It's the one that everyone
It's
like.
the one people know about. So that one also works in its favor, as opposed to like 16. It's new title. FF7R was just, it was using FF7 to boost its sales a bit more.
Yeah. Other complaints I saw in terms of reviews for this game, some people don't like the side quests, and I will agree that the content of the side quest is like boring what they actually have you like do for the side quests. But I think the side quests, actually even the boring ones, do a decent amount of like world building and have you actually like develop the side characters a little bit. So I actually don't mind the side quests in this game, but I
Yep.
have heard people complain about the side quests. Um, and the one other thing that I saw about the story was that I heard this was a Jason Schreier tweet that like the story it does all this like world building and political intrigue stuff in like the first 2/3 or so, and then they just kind of abandon that in the last third and just go like off the deep end with like the crystal magic and like we go fight, I don't know if it's God, but like whatever, we go fight this
Yeah,
demon or whatever the fuck it is at the end.
it's the
And they just
classic we fight God
yeah
/ it's what Marvel does now. We have to have an epic like climactic battle that the world is in danger for whatever reason. The world has to be in
yeah
danger for it to be interesting, which it doesn't. I don't know why it has to be like a world shaker event now for some of these. Can't it just be like a town? I miss little town stuff. I miss like, oh no, our town's in danger. Instead, it's got to be like the planet's in danger. I miss
yeah.
I miss that in
There is some
everything.
of that, like you do in this game, some of the side you do visit a bunch of like small towns on your way to like the big events and stuff, and there are side quests and like characters you meet, and like
Yeah,
I think that again, I think this game does a good job with like world building and like making you care about some of the locations and some of like the characters, even the small towns and stuff that you go around to and doing the side quests. So I think this game is doing a pretty good job of that actually. And I will agree with Ghost comment in the chat. The normal enemies are basically they do nothing and they die really fast. Um, the like mini boss enemies that exist, the one that actually like have a stagger bar, those can be like fun and interesting to fight. But the normal enemies that don't have a stagger bar and they stagger to every hit that you do, like you just use your cooldowns on them. Like there's one that you start with in the Phoenix icon, which is the one that you start with. It's just this like spin around you basically, this like fire spin around you, and it just like yeah, you just wait for the enemies to gather around you and you do that and it like basically kills them. So it's like okay, cool.
so basically you're just, the fights against the little enemies are just you practicing combos, really. It's really just
Yeah,
practice.
yeah, but it's hard to practice combos because they die too
They die
fast
too
and like
fast.
you start your combo and then they die and it's like okay, cool.
Okay. Okay. Normal enemies being, it's not, that's not a big deal, to be honest.
No, it's fine.
It's fine. It's
It's fine.
it's the classic. This is a scrub enemy. You're supposed to clean it up because you're supposed to be really powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what would be the alternative? You're not cleaning them up in an action game, and it's taking you a while, and they're a damage soak. I don't know. That also
No,
has its own
no, I
problems,
don't.
right?
I don't want that. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's. I don't know if there's a good solution. I think
Right.
there's a bit of a middle ground. I think they could be a little stronger than they are
Sure.
right now. I think they're a little bit too much of a
Of
joke.
course. Of course. I'm just saying, like, if this is an extreme, the other extreme is just, for me, it feels far worse. I'm
Oh yeah,
sure
the
middle
the, the
ground is
other
better,
s-
right?
the other extreme is much
It's
worse. Where
so
like the
bad.
normal enemies take like 5 minutes to fucking kill, and it's like, okay, this sucks.
Yeah, this sucks. Like, anytime I play a game, killing enemies really fast is like, if that's the extreme, okay, that's a bearable extreme. Middle ground, obviously, you want middle ground. Like, we always want middle ground, but in this case, but the games that I've played where it's like it takes 10 to 20 hits to kill something is
Yeah.
like, okay, well, this sucks. I'm just gonna do something else. Unless it's a boss, like boss obviously being the exclusion to that. Anyway, crystals.
So yeah, the game is cool. We can go into a little more detail later if we have
Okay,
time.
sounds good.